Default. In the context of a database field in a Python model, the default attribute is used to specify the default value for the field. This means that if no value has been explicitly provided for the field, the default value will be used instead. The default value will also be used as the initial value for the field in any forms that are generated based on the model. The default attribute should be set to a value of the same data type as the field. For example, if the field is intended to store strings, the default value should be a string, and if the field is intended to store integers, the default value should be an integer. In summary, the default attribute provides a way to specify a default value for a field in a Python model. If no value has been provided for the field, the default value will be used instead, both when saving the instance to the database and when generating forms based on the model. Let's use our post model to see the default field attribute in action. We can add a default attribute to the categories field in the post model. To do this, we simply add a default argument to the field definition. Here, we set the default value to news, which is the first value in the type choices tuple. Then we save the changes that we've made and migrate the database. After that, let's head to the Django admin interface to see the changes we made with the default attribute. When we add a new post in the Django admin with the categories field, we can expect the following behavior based on the default attribute we just added. The categories field will initially have a default value of news. If the user selects a different category from the drop-down menu, that value will be saved instead of the default value. If the user does not select a category and leaves the field blank, the default value of news will be saved for the post. Let's create a post without selecting any category in the drop-down. To see if our posts have been given the default category, let's add the categories field in the list display of our admin file. So, in short, the default value will only be used if the user does not select a category value for the categories field when adding a new post. If a user selects a different category, that value will be used instead of the default. Description. In Django models, the description attribute is used to provide a simple text description of a field or its purpose. This description is meant to be used when displaying information about the field inside an application, such as the Django admin or the admin docs framework. It's worth noting that the description attribute is not used for validation or any other functional purposes in the model itself. It's purely for display purposes and should be used sparingly to provide helpful context for users. In the explanation of the description attribute, I mentioned admin docs. So what is the admin docs? The admin docs interface provides an easy-to-use interface for browsing and searching your models and their fields. You can view detailed information about each field, including its name, type, help text, and validation constraints. Additionally, you can view information about related models and fields, as well as any custom methods or properties that have been defined on your models. Admin docs is particularly useful for developers who are working with large, complex Django projects that involve multiple models and fields. By providing easy access to detailed documentation, it can help to speed up development and reduce errors. To activate the admin docs, you will need to do the following. Install the docutils Python module if you don't have it already. Then add Django admin docs to your installed apps. Then import include and add admin docs path to your URL patterns. Make sure it's included before the admin entry, so that requests to admin docs don't get handled by the latter entry. Then migrate your database and run the server. Open the admin interface in your web browser and navigate to the documentation section in the upper right corner of the screen. Click on a model to view its documentation. You should see a page that displays information about the model's fields. Using admin docs can be a powerful tool for documenting your Django project. By default, Django provides a basic admin docs view that generates documentation for all the models and fields in your project. This can help you and your team understand the structure and purpose of your project's models and fields. But what makes admin docs even more interesting is that you can customize the documentation that it generates. You can add descriptions to fields, as well as write custom templates to display the documentation in a way that suits your needs. Overall, admin docs is a valuable tool that can help you and your team understand your Django project better and improve the documentation of your code. Now, after learning the basics of the admin docs, let's change this description of the title field in our post model by adding the description field attribute. This attribute will be added differently compared to other attribute. The description attribute is not a built-in attribute in Django's field classes and is not a valid argument for their init methods. It is actually a custom attribute that can be added to the fields. We first define a char field named title, then we add a custom description attribute to it. As you can see, the description have been changed in the admin docs due to the description attribute that we've added in the post model. Help text. The help text attribute is a string that can be displayed in forms and in the admin interface to provide more information about the field. In Django, help text and description serve similar purposes of providing additional information about a field, but they are implemented differently and used in different contexts. Help text is an attribute of a field in Django's ORM that can be used to provide additional descriptive text for a field. It is a string that is displayed alongside the field in forms and in the admin interface, providing additional guidance or context for the user. The help text attribute can be set when defining a field, and can also be modified dynamically in the view or form. Description, on the other hand, is not a built-in attribute of a field in Django's ORM. It is a term used in the Django documentation to refer to a plain text description of the field or its purpose. It is not used in the implementation of a model field, but rather in the documentation of the field or its purpose. It is not used in the implementation of a model field, but rather in the documentation of the field, such as in the admin docs. In summary, help text is an attribute of a field that is used to provide additional guidance to the user when interacting with the field, while description is a term used in the documentation of the field to provide a description of its purpose. Here's an example of how to use the help text attribute. In this example, the help text attribute is set to add the title of the post for the title char field. This text will be displayed in forms and in the admin interface to provide more information about the field, and it will also be displayed in the admin docs.